the million-dollar question whether healthy food is more or less expensive than junk food. There are sort of two lines of thought with that question. I feel like I'm a politician.
Big questions, small questions. The ones that you ask the internet at 1 a.m. Our research experts have the answers to those everyday curiosities. Like,
have you ever wondered why healthy food is more expensive than junk food? I'm Dr Christina Zorbas from Deakin University, and I'm here to tell you why. Why is healthy food often more expensive than junk food? The first question is actually, is healthy food more expensive than junk food? And there are sort of two lines of thought with that question. There's some evidence that says if you eat really basic healthy food, you can eat pretty cheaply. But then there's also evidence that shows that the healthier your diet gets, the more expensive it gets. So the question of why is a bit of a complicated one. It probably comes down to the fact that healthy food is grown by someone, it's picked by someone, it's pretty labor intensive to produce and get on the shelf. Whereas when you have junk food, that somebody is manufacturing that in a factory, you know, they're just putting sugar in it, they're putting salt in it. Junk food can sit on the shelf for years. So when you think about the fact that you can produce and manufacture junk food quickly, efficiently, and you can manufacture it in volume, then it just becomes something that's way cheaper to produce. But the other thing is, obviously, different industries are subsidized differently by the government as well. So we could possibly manufacture and produce healthy food more cheaply if the government made it a priority and invested in doing so. I feel like I'm a politician. What role does the government play in making healthy food more or less affordable? So this is probably where a lot of our research sits in our centre, and where we're really passionate about change being made. We recently did a review of the evidence and looked around the world to see what other countries did in response to the increased food prices in recent years. The evidence showed that governments responded in two ways. They either implemented actions to address the short-term impacts. That was either capping food prices. So for example, a basket of 30 really basic foods, they told supermarkets you can't increase things above a certain price. And the other short-term action that governments implemented was increasing people's incomes. So we saw that in Australia with the increase in job seeker, because we know that food affordability, there are two sides to that equation. It's the price of food, it's also your income that allows you to afford food. It's not about quick fixes. There's a whole really complicated food production supply chain that needs to be addressed. Right now, the government's looking at putting together a national food security strategy, and we really hope that they adopt our recommendations to that strategy. The question is, how do supermarkets and food companies influence what we buy and eat? They influence it a lot. And big industries do know what they're doing. They're trying to sell products, they're trying to make profits. When we walk through the supermarket, the layout is very much pushing us towards buying unhealthy things more than the healthy things. You also have the milk, the bread, all those core healthy foods in the corners, and often you have to walk through the supermarket to get to them. So again, the more time you spend in there, the more aisles you walk through, the more you're putting in your basket. So are there any cultural or community factors that make access to healthy food hard? Short answer is definitely. This is actually where a lot of our research sits at the moment, in talking to different migrant communities in Australia to understand what their experiences are of accessing healthy food when they come to a new country with a totally different food supply and food system. Our work with African migrants has shown that often they have to travel 30 to 40 minutes to get to a culturally appropriate grocery store. So none of their foods are stocked in the mainstream supermarkets. And then they also have to deal with the fact that those foods might be more expensive because of the trade and import taxes that go on to cultural foods. It's really nice seeing the community work together to sort of tackle some of these food insecurity challenges, so that there is a space where the communities can come, feel connected and feel like they belong in Australia as well, because we know food is such an important thing for your cultural identity and belonging. So how does food marketing affect our choices between unhealthy and healthy options? Food marketing really does influence us all. Whether we like to think it does or not, the evidence shows that it does, and in particular, it's problematic for kids. So we know kids are really vulnerable to unhealthy food marketing. It affects their food preferences, their choices, and what they eat. We did a study looking at price promotions or specials on junk foods and unhealthy drinks, and found that basically the unhealthy options were on special twice as much as the healthy options, and discounted to a much greater degree. And then you see your specials also marketed either through a catalogue, or as you go about the supermarket, there might be extra signage around those. So marketing is really set up to influence what you then end up buying. The next question is, what are the biggest myths around the cost of healthy eating? Well, it's not necessarily a myth, but it's the million-dollar question whether healthy food is more or less expensive than junk food. And I think we just need to keep doing research in that space to understand the nuances and the details. And I think we have to listen to people's lived experiences as well. And when people are telling us that healthy food is too expensive, then we have to believe them to some extent. And the numbers need to be balanced with the stories. I do think for many people, healthy food is too expensive in this country. A healthy diet for a family of 4 in Australia over a 2-week period costs around $600. I definitely can't bust it today, but I'm keen to keep exploring it to see how we can help people afford to eat healthy. Should we tax junk food to make healthy food cheaper? The short answer is yes. Definitely, 100%, without a question. Taxing junk food, in particular taxing sugary drinks, has been done in so many countries and jurisdictions around the world. It is basically accepted as a key and effective public health policy. We haven't been able to get much traction on this in Australia. We know that taxes like this have multiple benefits. Firstly, they lower sugary drink consumption, which we know we all probably maybe could have a bit less sugar in our diets. But also I think the key thing about this question is reinvesting the money that comes out of that tax into things that we want to see in society. Could earmark that the money goes to local fresh fruit and vegetable growers, and that's where the subsidy for those things comes from. You could invest in a universal school meals program so that every kid goes to school in Australia and gets a healthy food there like they do in Brazil. Tax junk food and get that money and put it into these initiatives that we're calling for. If you could get rid of one unhealthy food item forever, what would it be? I mean, I want to preface this one by saying I am an advocate for everything in moderation. Like, I'm not here to be the food police and tell people what they can and can't eat. But for me, one of the biggest ones would be, I think, things like sugary drinks. These sugary drinks are doing a lot more damage to society than I think is often made the case for. In addition to that, kids really can get hooked on sugary drinks quite easily, and we know that dental caries and dental issues are one of the biggest reasons kids end up in hospitals. You know, sugary drinks are linked to, weight gain and some issues later on in life through the chronic diseases that we've spoken about. We know sugary drinks are super problematic. And again, maybe as a treat it's fine, but I think just having a meal and then a glass of sugar is essentially what you're doing.